All right, let's jump right into this explainer and unpack the core framework of the architecture of destiny, focusing on the exact 3 decisions that change everything. I am so pumped to guide you through this today because the concepts we're looking at fundamentally flip how we view our path in life. We so often think of our future as something that's just waiting for us down the road, like it's already built. But the source material we're analyzing today challenges that completely. It suggests that your future isn't a pre-existing destination at all. It's a construction site, and you are the builder. Let's look at the actual vocabulary of this idea. There is this really fascinating tension right off the bat between being a passive passenger to destiny and an active builder through architecture. Think about destiny for a second. It's defined as a hidden power. It is the ultimate hands-off approach, basically implying that whatever happens is completely out of your control. But then we have architecture. Architecture is the exact opposite. It's the rigorous, deliberate, mathematical design of structure. When our source pairs these two words together, the architecture of destiny, it creates this brilliant paradox. It tells us that what we usually think of as uncontrollable fate is actually something that requires rigorous, step-by-step design. It's not magic, guys, it's engineering. And to understand how to engineer it, we need a roadmap. So here is how we're going to break down this structural blueprint today. First, designing your own fate. Then we'll hit the first decision, the second decision, and the third decision before wrapping it all up with a blueprint for the future. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Designing your own fate. This is where we tackle that foundational paradox of taking control over the things that supposedly just happen to us. The absolute core takeaway from our source material here is that fate, it isn't just some endless series of random events crashing into you. It actually hinges on exactly 3 pivotal choices. The text distills the massive complexity of a human life down to the 3 decisions that change everything. Just think about how freeing that is. You don't need to make 10,000 perfect choices to build a good life. You don't have to constantly stress over every tiny fork in the road. You simply have to master the architecture of 3 specific, overarching decisions. But you're probably wondering, why 3? Why not 1 giant decision or 100 little ones? Well, our brains absolutely love triplets, sure, but in actual physical architecture, a triangle, a 3-sided shape, is literally the strongest structural form. It bears immense weight without buckling. The source material applies that exact same logic to your destiny. 2 decisions, that's just a wobbly back-and-forth line. 4, now you're building a complicated box. But 3 gives you a rock-solid, unshakable foundation. It's the minimum number of points you need to define a solid ground to stand on, which brings us perfectly to that first point of the triangle. Section 2, the first decision, the active foundation. Let's transition into the load-bearing choice for everything else you're going to build. Think about the default choice for a second. If you don't actively pour a foundation, your life just kind of naturally settles into the dirt, right? You end up passively accepting whatever beliefs, limitations, and expectations your environment hands you. It's literally a foundation of sand. But contrast that with the architect's choice. This is the active foundation. This decision is where you intentionally choose your bedrock principles. You dig deep, you clear out all that societal debris, and you pour the concrete of your own core values. Because if this first decision isn't incredibly strong, whatever you try to build next is just going to crack. So once the foundation cures, where do we go next? Section 3, the second decision, the structural choice. With the foundation poured, we escalate our level of intention. Now we pivot from just setting a baseline to actually framing out the walls of your destiny. First, you have the reactive choice. You've got a foundation, sure, but the second the wind blows or the rain falls, you just react. You're dodging, you're patching things up, complaining about the weather, and man, that is exhausting. Now contrast that with the structural choice. In building a house, framing the walls defines the shape. It dictates where the doors and windows go. The structural choice in your life means deciding exactly how you will process adversity and opportunity. It's intentionally designing the daily habits and systems that protect your foundation and hold up your roof. You aren't just reacting to the world anymore, you're filtering the world through the structure you built. And that structure leads us to the final, most crucial element. Section 4, the third decision, the transformative capstone. Now we arrive at the choice that seals the structure and truly changes everything. This final choice is where the absolute highest stakes reside. It's what separates passive observers from the master architects of their own lives. Think of the stagnant path. A lot of people get the foundation right, they frame a decent structure, and then they just stop. They get comfortable living in an unfinished, unroofed house forever. But the source material emphasizes that this third decision changes everything. We have to build that transformative capstone. In a stone archway, the capstone is that final piece dropped in at the very top center. The second it's in, boom, the entire arch can suddenly hold massive weight. It transforms a fragile stack of rocks into an enduring monument. Your third decision is all about purpose and continuous growth. It's the commitment to never stop refining your design, to commit to the ultimate vision of what you're building. It takes your structure and turns it into a legacy. So how do we visualize this whole process working together? Section 5, Blueprint for the Future. The final polish. Let's bring this all together and look at how this entire framework applies to your daily life right now. These three decisions have to stack on top of one another to create a comprehensive, inescapable blueprint for personal growth. And it has to happen in this order. You simply cannot place the transformative capstone of Step 3 if you haven't built the walls in Step 2. And you definitely can't build the walls of Step 2 if you haven't laid the active foundation in Step 1. The sheer brilliance of this framework from our source material is its sequential simplicity. It totally removes the overwhelm of trying to magically find your destiny and replaces it with a highly logical, step-by-step construction manual. The ultimate takeaway is this. You have to make the shift from a passive passenger to an active architect. Why does this matter for you today? Because understanding this architecture empowers you to stop reacting to the world and start designing your outcomes. We're not just sitting around waiting for destiny to show up at our doorstep and tell us what to do anymore. We're drawing the blueprints. We are laying the bricks. We realize that our fate is completely in our hands, dictated by these three monumental choices. It's a total identity shift, from being someone who is molded by the world to being someone who molds their world. I want to leave you with a thought to chew on today. Take a hard look at your current life's blueprint and ask yourself, where is the structural weakness? Which of these three decisions are you currently neglecting? Have you compromised your foundation? Are your walls completely reactive right now? Or hey, maybe you've just been sitting in a perfectly framed house, but you're too afraid to place that capstone. Use this framework as a mirror. Identify the gap in your architecture and start building. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I seriously cannot wait to see what you build.